Amy, Councilwoman Vanessa Gepson is having trouble with her video. Can you check on that, please?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to this event today. My name is Richard Ginsberg. I am AVP for Communications and Marketing at Bronx Community College. I want to just go over a couple of rules and of engagement here for today. And first of all, before I do that, I want to say thank you very much to our CUNY partners in putting this together, this important event together, from Hostos and Lehman. Thank you very much for partnering with us on this. We appreciate it. We have disabled all functionality for this so that we can make sure that we have the best possible scenario for this program, that we keep safety and Zoom bombing at a minimum, and make sure that the program runs true to its time. So that being said, I want to just thank Darren Jamie, the host of the BronxNet Show Open, for agreeing to moderate this event, for being a friend of the college and the CUNY system, and for agreeing to be here today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Darren, and I look forward to a really great program. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be selected as your moderator for this very special Bronx Borough President Forum. I'm Darren Jaime from BronxNet Television, and of course, have Open and Perspectives and the Social Justice Show, and so one who's been covering the Bronx for a long period of time, and very familiar with all of those who are setting foot to run, and also familiar with the borough of the Bronx. I think we're all here because we love the Bronx and we want to be able to take the Bronx forward. And this gives us an opportunity to hear from our candidates in the race for borough president, as we have this wonderful forum that will allow us to be able to hear from them, but more importantly, them to be able to hear from you. I'll go over the debate rules in just a few minutes, but what we'll do is we'll now have some welcoming remarks. And first, we'll be joined by the host president. We've got Dr. Thomas A. Sekenegbe, who's the president of Bronx Community College. And Dr. Sekenegbe, good to see you again, and take it away.
I want to say thank you to you, Darren Jaime. I mean, it's Richard said, friend of BCC. No, you're a friend to all of the CUNY colleges. So I wanted to correct Richard on that. I want to say thank you for hosting this program. To our SGA leaders, I see them in the house and I see the names here. The future is about you. I want to say thank you to you for agreeing to participate tonight on this program too. And what about our partners? Too many names to call. Again, to all of our partners for this evening program, I want to say thank you very, very much. And I think it's a great thing. We all love the Bronx, as Darren has just said. So this is a forum really to really talk about the future of the Bronx. But most importantly, to all of the candidates here, truly, I want to say thank you to all of you for participating. You don't know how much I think I'm familiar with most of, if not all of you. And I admire, I think in caps, I want to say that your public service and your enthusiasm for our borough. So I just want to say on behalf of our faculty, on behalf of our students and staff, I want to say thank you to all of you for what you've done for our borough and what you intend to also do for our borough. So I want to say thank you very, very much. To everybody out there, I think it's very important we all participate in the voting process. The primary is in June, I believe June 22nd. It's important to go out there and vote and express your choice. I know there are many people that don't want us to vote. There are many people that want to restrict us from voting, but I think it's very important we exercise our rights. And we're going to be campaigning heavily on our social media pages to encourage our students to go vote. So to all of the candidates, thank you very, very much. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. Darren, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Dr. Sekenegbe. And we want to also bring in now another president. We've got Dr. Daisy Coco de Filippis, who's the interim president at Eugenio D. Marie Hostos Community College. And thank you very much, President. Take it away.
Well, thank you so very much. I cannot tell you. Muy buenas noches a todos. I am so delighted to be in the company of such wonderful people. My two colleagues, the president, of Bronx Community College and the president of Lehman Community College have been great. We work closely together, and they are generous enough to include you, and to have someone like yourself, Mr. Darren Jaime, facilitating and seeing all these wonderful elected officials. Some of these wonderful ladies have come to the college and participated. I won't mention names because if I forget somebody, but I want to say that it is important. It is so important. I grew up in a dictatorship, and I grew up in a place where you couldn't really vote. And when I became an American citizen in this country, I would take my children with me to the booth to show them that this is so empowering. And so I'm delighted that we are holding this virtual debate, that CUNY students are also students, but all of them are our students, are here with us. And to have this conversation, there are very many, very serious topics. Think of how hard the Bronx was hit by COVID, and how we, now the voters, have this opportunity to hear from the candidates for borough president, to young people, as I said, who want to make the world a better place, but don't know how. Let me say that civic participation. I have written multiple essays and distributed to students regularly about the importance of voting, and what we have seen, thank goodness, that in the Bronx, we don't experience what is going on in other parts of the world. I hope we're not. But at any rate, civic engagement, community engagement begins when you educate yourself, inform yourself, and exercise your right. So finally, I just want to thank the Honorable Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., who served for so many years as Borough President with distinction, to thank this wonderful council persons, because we have both, and elected distinguished officials for doing this. And of course, a big thank you to our moderator, Darren Jaime, of Bronx Next, and everyone who worked so hard to make this event happen. Mil gracias y bendiciones a todos.
Thank you, President. And we're moving now from host on to what I call the home team. That's where BronxNet is located, right there at Lehman College. And so we're pleased to have Dr. Daniel Lemons, who's the president of Lehman College, who will come and give us greetings and welcome at this time.
Thank you, Darren. Good to see you again. Good evening, everyone. I have to say, echo the words of my colleagues, the two other presidents, President Kadegby and also Daisy. This is not really, we're not telling you this because we're trying to impress you or put on a good show. We are really a team in the Bronx, and we work closely together, and we see what we're doing together as CUNY institutions as being just so fundamental to the Bronx and to the development of the Bronx. The borough president is such a key part of our whole world in the Bronx as CUNY institutions. And I think all three of us as colleges in the Bronx, CUNY colleges, have really good relationship with the borough president, and we see it as vital. So it's a really terrific honor to have the candidates for that position with us this evening. Voting at the local level is very important. I've been a local elected official myself, and I think that in some ways the very best of our democracy is what plays out at this level, where you really have that contact with elected officials, and you get a chance to exchange ideas, and sometimes they're complaints, and sometimes they are just other important things that need to be communicated. But you have the possibility of having that kind of a relationship, really. And I know we as college presidents certainly feel that we've had that with Ruben Diaz Jr. and really appreciate it. Our students vote. I'm not sure about what the statistics are for Bronx Community College and Hostos, but I know about Lehman, our students vote about 10% higher on average than the average for college students across the country. So it's important what we're doing this evening, because the students of our campus will make a difference. They will turn out and vote. And forums like this are really just so instrumental for each of the candidates to distinguish themselves, talk about their priorities. So on that note, I want to thank each of the candidates for being here this evening. It's a privilege for us to have you and a real opportunity for you to make yourselves known to our campus communities. So thank you again for being here, addressing this very key constituency in the Bronx, which is students, of which you know there are tens of thousands. So with that, Darren, I'll turn it back over to you.
All righty. Thank you, President Lemons, and we thank you for the welcome. We thank all of our presidents for sharing the welcome with us. Now it's time for us to take the time to introduce the candidates who are running for Borough President, the ones who are offering themselves. And we're so glad to have them all here sharing with us this afternoon. Well, now it's evening, about getting close to evening. But let's introduce the candidates. First, we have Councilmember Fernando Cabrera, and he is here with us as well. Also, we've got Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez. She's here as well. Hello, how you doing? Councilmember Vanessa Gibson is here with us as well. We've also got Samuel Rivelo, who is here. And then we've also got State Senator Luis Sepulveda, who joins us also as well. And so glad to have all of the candidates who are sharing here with us. And so this is a forum. And so people ask, well, how's the forum work? What is it? Well, we're going to give you some, well, the candidates already know a little bit about the rules, but we'll go over them once again, because in forums such as these, it's always important that we get it right twice. How about that? So let's do it like this. First of all, no candidate will actually deliver an opening statement. Each candidate will be introduced by the moderator, and you'll give a short 2-sentence statement. After answering the first question, all candidates will be referred to either by their first name or Mr. or Miss. Now, I want to let you know ahead of time, I've been at the same station for 25 years in the Bronx. I know all of them by title, so if I blow it, forgive me, but that's how we'll try. I'll try my best to stick to that one. That's on me. All right, candidates will also be given a 1-minute response time and a 30-second rebuttal at the moderator's discretion. The moderator will also have the option of allowing a candidate up to 1.5 minutes rebuttal on an especially contentious issue. And then we also ask our candidates to be prepared for a one-word question response lightning round. And then candidates will also be allowed to deliver a 1-minute closing remarks. Candidates should be prepared to discuss the following topics about higher education in CUNY, public health, affordable housing, public safety, and economic development. And if a topic is eliminated due to time constraints, campaigns will be notified 5 business days in advance. That was what we put out there to let you guys know. All righty, so we will begin right now, and we'll begin each with a 2-sentence statement and a 2 short sentence statement. The way that we've done this is we try to do it fair. So we just said we're going to do it in alphabetical order. And so I think the letter C comes first. Education pays off. All right. Fernando Cabrera, please. 2-sentence statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's truly a joy.
All righty. Assemblywoman Fernandez.
Every time. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I am your green and clean candidate. I look forward to the debate.
Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Darren, and thank you, CUNY, to all of our wonderful presidents for hosting us tonight. I am a proud CUNY graduate. CUNY rocks, and I can't wait to talk to you about my campaign to become your next Bronx Borough president. Thank you so much.
All righty. Mr. Samuel Rivelo.
Hello, everyone. I am also a CUNY graduate, a product of Bronx Community College. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Darren, for having me.
All righty. State Senator Sepulveda.
Thank you all for having me here today. Thank you, Darren, for the great work that you've been doing for years in the Bronx. I want to thank CUNY for hosting me and eager to share my thoughts and ideas on how to better prepare the Bronx for the future.
All righty. Well, glad to have each and every one of you sharing with us. All right. So we got some topics of discussion. And as we have some topics of discussion, we have some students who will actually be exercising their voice. and to be able to ask the questions. And so the first question is going to come by Yanira Arias, who's a Hostos student ambassador. And in that same order that you guys just came, remember that, because you're going to be coming back to answer the questions in that order. But I will, of course, be glad to moderate and do that. But Yanira is going to speak to us on the topic of economic development. So her question is on economic development. Yanira, take it away.
Sorry, sir. You, Darren, if you would just read the question.
Oh, sure. No problem. Okay. Well, this is from Yanira Arias, who's a Hostos student ambassador. In 2021, women earned 82 cents for every dollar by men via payscale.com. What is your proposal in terms of reducing inequality of salaries for women versus men when talking about the same position?
Thank you so much for the question. This is a real problem, especially right here in the Bronx. What I'm going to work on is in a wage discrimination task force. And part of that task force is to come with an annual list of worst employers with wage inequality of salaries for women here in the Bronx, and to be able to provide a full public report so we know who are not playing fair right here in the Bronx. And also, I think we also need to provide more affordable childcare, especially in CUNY, so we could have a catch net of economic security.
All right. Assemblywoman Fernandez, going to ask you the question, and we have another question here. It's in regards to economic development. And it says, what are some small business initiatives that you'll work on to get our commerce and businesses up in the Bronx and running?
Thank you for that question. Well, it's no secret that our small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities, and we need to do a lot of work to make sure that they are opening their doors again and able to hire again. But in the Assembly, we know that, I knew that, and we fought hard to make sure that we created $800 million, close to $1 billion for small business relief. But my plan is to create a task force that will directly help small business owners navigate through the application so they get every resource and opportunity available to them. And even more so, I will help create merchant associations and business corridors that aren't protected or covered by bids to help benefit from the organizing efforts that these organizations do.
All right. Councilmember Vanessa Gibson, would you like to answer that question about small business initiatives that you'll work on to get the commerce and businesses in the Bronx up and running again?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And also, let me also say equal pay for equal work. We have to continue to address the disparities that we face with women and predominantly women of color in the workplace. Is unacceptable. Small businesses are the lifeblood, the foundation of our communities. Our mom and pop shops and merchants have struggled to survive. So we need to pass legislation at the city council, like the Small Business Job Survival Act. We need to create access and opportunity through grant opportunities and not loans. We need to provide relief around some of the fines that many of our businesses have been subjected to. We need to provide a lot of support on the technical side and the actual application. Less than 10% of our Bronx businesses receive access to any of the PPP funds from the city of New York. And I think that's unacceptable. We have to help develop merchants associations and more of our business improvement districts. We also have to do more with our IBZs, our industrial business zones. We have to create economic prosperity and wealth in our communities through financial literacy, financial empowerment, and also efforts to recruit at the local level. We should give incentives for small businesses to hire locally from the community, provide summer youth employment opportunities for young people. They can get tax credits. They can get lots of opportunities where they're hiring locally, they're giving that access, but they're also getting some relief as well. So we look forward to working with everyone on that, because we do need to invest in our small businesses so they can not only strive, but they can thrive and be productive parts of our community.
All righty. Thank you very much. Mr. Rivelo will ask you the same question about small business initiatives. What will you do to work on? What will we work on to get our commerce and businesses up and running again in the Bronx? You got to unmute yourself though, brother, so we can all hear you.
First, let me apologize. I've been a little under the weather. I'm one of the statistics. I've been hit with COVID, so I'm trying to recover from it. So I really thank you. So coming out of this pandemic, that's going to be the number one issue. It's going to be jobs for our people. I just want to say one thing. You know, when it comes to pay equality, immigrant women have been hit the hardest of them all because the language barrier. So we definitely need to address that. But as far as jobs coming out of the pandemic, information is power, and we need to find it. What I'll do is I'll have everything on our website where our businesses can come in and have it in all different languages, whether our Garifunas friends or whether are the Dominicans or whether are Albanians or anybody. I'm hoping, I apologize if I forget anybody, they can come in and get the information that they need, whether it's interest-free loans or grants. I'm big on interest-free loans because interest-free loans is what our small businesses are going to need in order to start the businesses and create the jobs that the Bronx is going to need going forward.
All righty. Thank you so much. And we are now going to ask Senator Sepulveda. You can unmute and answer, and you can feel free to answer.
I need to know the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Same question. You know, what are the small business initiatives that you'll work on to get the commerce up and going again right here in the Borough of the Bronx?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. And really, we have to start thinking in different ways than we have in the Bronx over the years. You know, USA Today reported that the Bronx is the 32nd poorest county in the entire United States, and it's dead last in New York. And unfortunately, we have the distinction of being the only county whose households in New York State earns less than $40,000 per year. Whatever has been happening in the past clearly has not worked. And I am so frustrated with that we have to think out of the box. Now, I've been studying many models of economic development throughout the world, and I've liked the concept of what's called a 15-minute city model that's being introduced in several European cities where people are able to live and work and play all within walkable range of each other. So we have to create here central business hubs, which will be walking distance from the majority of Bronxites, and which will cultivate a more vibrant climate for small businesses by linking consumers and residents to these enterprises. And this aligns the 15-minute model that I could believe it could provide an amazing resurgence to the activity that we so desperately need here in the Bronx. Now, we need clearly a business-friendly climate that institutionalizes responsible development. And that means responsible development is a more transparent process that will not displace, and I emphasize again, will not displace residents, but will provide living wages for people that live in this county. And we have to provide incentives for businesses to anchor themselves in our borough via grants or tax subsidies. Now, we also have a gem that we can use in this county, and that's green technology and green energy being part and parcel of a lot of the economic development models that we're seeing throughout the country. And any BP should be sensitive to how problematic development can be when not factoring in the history of environmental racism in the Bronx. It's a major issue that we have to tackle here. And look, I've been working with a major company, Toshiba, bringing stem cell hubs to the Bronx to our schools. I met in one of my delegation trips with the second in command of Toshiba, and he promised me that we're going to be working on this real soon, so that many of the kids that in our communities that want to get better jobs, engineering jobs, are going to be able to get probably a foot into a company like Toshiba, which is one of the largest engineering companies in the world. That's what I do. I think out of the box. We can't continue to do things the way they've been done. I know that many of my colleagues have attempted to better this county, and there have been successes, but we're still at the bottom of every major indicator in economy and health, and that has to stop, and that will stop when I become your next borough president.
Thank you. I was not fair. I got to make sure I get Councilman Cabrera. I left you out of the question, so I'm going to give you the question yourself. What are the small business initiatives that you'll work on to get the commerce and business in the Bronx up and running again? So Councilman Cabrera, sorry, I forgot about you. Go right ahead.
It's so good. It's so good. Look, I recently introduced a bill to provide amnesty to all small businesses. It was actually endorsed by Crane's editorial board. I'm also going to push to allow small businesses owners to retain sales tax receipt for 1 year to retain workers and utility. The fact is that they've been hit in a very tremendous way. We got to allow for city permits and licenses to renew for the next 12 months without any fees. Job trainings that will get more of our Bronx people to be able to develop those skills that they need to get good jobs. We have to work for a campaign. As the next borough president, I'm going to campaign to register and complete as many NWBEs for local contracts. Many of our people, Black and brown, are left out. And last but not least, apprenticeship. Whenever a big corporation comes to the Bronx, and we're going to have many more coming in, we want to assure that our young people, especially our graduates coming out of CUNY and young people coming out of high school, they have an opportunity to receive that level of experience and job expertise and exposure that can only be afforded if they have the open door.
Thank you very much. And so I got one more question for each of the candidates, and it is in regards to economic development. And so I'll start back with you, Councilman Cabrera, so you can get back with this. The pandemic actually set our city back, right? And you have a lot of areas such as the Bronx who are already struggling, and we're even further back. How do you deal with ensuring that the transportation infrastructure of our community doesn't fall to the bottom of the list? And this came from Yanira Arias, who's a Hostel student ambassador.
Well, I want to thank the Hostel students for that question. Look, I just, this last week, I was able to announce with DOT for e-scooter rideshare program. I introduced it, passed the bill last June, and we have something unprecedented happen in the Bronx. We had the opportunity to have the first pilot program take place here. Often the Bronx is left for last. I pushed, got it in. Now, many of our CUNY students are now going to be able to get to our CUNY schools and to back and forth from job and work, and to, especially in those transportation desert areas. We're going to work and have been working in accessible elevators. Now my 4-line will have elevators so we could be ADA compliant. First one to provide clocks for our bus stops. And we need more bus routes. We just don't have enough. We don't have enough buses coming to our district. And so I'm going to use a bully pulpit to make sure that we get our due.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, Assemblywoman Fernandez. Same question we'll ask about our city being set back in areas like the Bronx. We're already struggling. How do we deal with ensuring the transportation infrastructure of our community doesn't fall to the bottom of the list?
Well, the Bronx has long time struggled with transportation issues. Most of the borough could be considered a transportation desert because our subways only go up and down and our buses go left and right. But we do need more bus lanes. Bus lanes will help streamline our bus schedule so buses aren't late, they aren't coming back to back, and Bronxites can get where they need to get to on time. In my green plan, I'm the only candidate that introduced a Bronx green plan to specifically address the environmental injustices that we've been suffering for a long time, that will address the overall health of the Bronx, and at the same time create good paying jobs for the Bronx. Part of these jobs will be to implement more bike lanes, to do transportation studies, to make sure that our transportation options are available to all, and putting, example, elevators in every train station because the entire borough needs to be ADA accessible. And that also means putting audible crosswalks everywhere. But we need to continue to make sure that we are working for a borough that can get around without a car, because not many people do own cars. But at the same time, addressing that car travel can be dangerous, and looking at projects like capping the Cross Bronx will help reduce emissions and, again, add more jobs, but help Bronxites get around safely.
Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate it. And I also want to make sure we have an opportunity as the women candidates to talk about pay parity and gender equity. I think that's a very important topic that, we've talked about, but not everyone had a chance to really express themselves. Transportation is truly the foundation of how we get around as New Yorkers. And I think we have to reform the Access-a-Ride program. We have to implement more east-west corridor connections. We have to provide dedicated bus lanes and bike lanes to protect our pedestrians as well as our cyclists, like what we've done on Edward L. Grant Highway and what we're looking to do with the Grand Concourse reconstruction through Vision Zero. We have to look at countdown crosswalks and making sure that people are safe safe in crosswalks like we used to be. We have to make sure that the streets are shared by everyone, not just drivers and bus operators, but pedestrians and parents and seniors and people with mobility issues and disabilities. We also have to envision what transportation looks like from a public safety perspective. So we have the expansion of the Metro North coming. We have ADA compliance at many of our subway stations, like Burnside, like 170th, like 149th, like Parkchester, and other places. We have to look at how this also creates jobs, not just any job, but sustainable careers and apprenticeship opportunities for young men and women of color, those that are formerly incarcerated and are looking for opportunities. We have to look at all of these aspects as a part of the fundamentals of what we rightfully deserve in the Bronx, making sure that we look at the north-south interconnections as well, better bus service, getting buses running in the borough, making sure that we look at the construction industry, the local hiring aspect, permanent jobs, recruitment of women in construction is very, very important, and really making sure that at the end of the day, we're building that economic wealth that we talk about. People live in deserts and they cannot get around. In order for us to take people out of cars, you have to make it more convenient for them to use another mode of transportation, whether it's an electric bike, an electric scooter, whether it's car sharing, city bike, all the other efforts that we are now getting in the Bronx. We have to make sure that it's actually achievable and accessible to everyone. The final thing I want to say about the Bronx is we are the only borough next to Northern Manhattan that has a significant number of step streets. And step streets are these interconnectors that are predominantly on the west side of the Bronx. I have a number of them, and people use them as a way to connect, to get around. And we want DOT to look at these as a part of our transportation hub, as a part of getting around, as a part of health and fitness, as a part of making sure that it's a part of our infrastructure. And so we've done a lot of this work in the city council through legislation, through budget. We have about $170 million dedicated to redefining our crosswalks to make them more safer. We have the Grand Concourse project, which is now in phase 4. We have a number of projects, and we want to see that expand all across the Bronx.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Rivelo, thank you so much. Would you care to join in on the question? But you got to unmute yourself one more time.
Sorry about that. Yes, I agree with all of the above. You know, the Bronx does have some certain desolate areas, and we need more bus, and we got to stop obviously the assault on our cab drivers. I sat down with a great number of cab drivers who actually live in the Bronx and contribute to the economy in the Bronx, and we have to make life a little easier for them. It's in order for those fares to come down, and perhaps it won't prompt people to actually buy cars, but actually take cabs. And Vanessa Gibson said it very well. The Metro North stations will work very well. And east-west bus lanes, we should add more buses. I think that would ease the burden on our transportation.
All right. Thank you very much. Senator Sepulveda, you got to unmute yourself again, too.
All right, I'm sorry about that. Thank you again for the question. Now, look, this 15-minute city model that I keep proposing can address many of these logistical concerns that we outline in that compelling question. Look, we need to compress how we live and how we play. This model that I'm proposing not only affords the borough an opportunity for greener sources of energy, but also alleviates much of the issues surrounding our transportation. We got to build infrastructure from within, not without. Now, in terms of what I've advocated for, I respectfully disagree with the Assemblywoman about her being the only Green candidate. I was a Green candidate in 2010 when I ran for the New York State Assembly, and I've been a Green candidate ever since. I mean, I have 100% ranking in terms of my vote, or rating in terms of my vote, with all the environmentalist group that rank elected officials in the Bronx. So I've been doing this a lot longer than than this campaign. I've been doing this for almost 12 years. And if you look also in Parkchester, there was no elevator for many years. And people told me when I started that fight that it would be a pipe dream, that I could never, ever get that elevator. And because we harassed the MTA and the governor year after year as a demonstration of our commitment to this county, we were able to ultimately get an elevator for the Parkchester station after so many years of people trying. That's a sign of leadership, and that's what you need here. Now look, we clearly need more transportation alternatives and approach that are much more creative and imaginable than we've had now. We cannot continue to subject our children and our generations to pollution. So all alternatives should put green energy and the safety of our children first and foremost. But let's think out of the box and not like we've been doing over the last so many years.
All righty. I'll give 30 seconds if you want to have a rebuttal, Assembly Member Fernandez.
Yes, I call myself the green candidate because I actually put a plan forward. And in the last couple months that we've been doing many forums, Senator Sepulveda hasn't been there to talk about this. So transparency is one of my promises as Borough President, and you will know what I stand for from the beginning to now. And I leave it at that.
All righty, thank you very much. Going to move on, and we're going to stick to the clock. We've got 1 minute. I know it's hard for each of you to do, so I'm going to give each of you 1 minute. And if you're not within the 1 minute, I'm going to have to yank you because we want to make sure that we get all of our students' questions answered as best as we possibly can. Going to move to the topic of public health, and we thank another BCC student, Valeria Menendez, who asked the question, NYC Votes Questions by a BCC student. And she is now asking the question, do you have a plan to support the 170,000 Bronx residents who are currently without health insurance? Going in alphabetical order, Councilmember Cabrera, 1 minute, fire away.
I keep being first. So look, we have a tremendous program in the city of New York that many of our constituents throughout New York City are totally unaware. It's the CARE program. The CARE program, right now, we have about 10,000 in the Bronx that are part of it. The mayor introduced the program. I think it's a great program, and it provides coverage for every single one of those who don't have health coverage. So we have it available. What we need is a better campaign, a better educational campaign to making sure that all of our constituents in the Bronx have this affordable healthcare plan ready available to them to be used. And so, but if they don't know, they're not able, obviously, to be part of that. So I'm going to make it a point that we could get this information to every single of our constituents.
Thank you. All righty, Senator Fernandez.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, it is. What plan do you have to support the 170,000 Bronx residents who are without health insurance?
Well, we need to finally pass the New York Health Act. That is something I've been committed to since I've entered in the state assembly and even before as an advocate. And furthermore, we need to just continue to fight that our public health system is supported, is funded. I fought I voted against the budget that gave Medicaid cuts in 2019 and fought to make sure we restored it in this budget. But we need to bring public health clinics deeper into our communities, our underserved communities, so Bronxites and every person here has an opportunity and access to good health care.
Thank you. Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you so much. That's a great question. Too many Bronxites are underinsured and uninsured and lack access to basic necessities like healthcare and primary health and mental health and therapeutic services. We need to embark on more partnerships with our healthcare institutions and professionals. We need to work with all of our FQHCs, the federally qualified health centers, like BCHN, Morris Heights, Urban Health, and Union, and many others that are getting money through the federal stimulus plan. We need to also look at our school-based health centers that provide medical, dental, and vision care, working with our educators in our school buildings. We need to look at access and opportunity, and we need to do things a little bit different. There is a strong correlation to accessing healthcare that is also important, and that is access to universal healthy food. And we have a plan that will address healthy bodegas, working with supermarkets, working with our green markets and farmers markets and health bucks, and making sure that families have access and opportunity. Eating healthy food and having access to a primary care plan are fundamental parts and basic necessities that every Bronxite should have access to, no matter how much is in their bank account, no matter where they live, no matter where their zip code. It's a universal approach that we should all strive to achieve every single day.
Thank you. Mr. Rivelo.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Had to come from somebody from BCC, which is great. Councilman Cabrera is right. You know, we have access. One of the things that I am encouraged when running for Bronx Borough President is that there is enough in the Bronx. There's enough places where people can get help. It's just a matter of them having the information. Part of what I want to propose is I want to have a office on wheels, a borough president's office on wheels. And one of the main things that the Bronx Borough President's office is going to do is give people the information as to where and how they can access healthcare. You know, a lot of people think that just going to the emergency room, which is the most expensive way of treating themselves, is how you do it. No, you know, so information, again, information is power. So I agree with Councilman Cabrera and Assemblywoman Fernandez. You know, we have the money, we should put the money in, and we should allow people to, or give people the information that they need in order for them to have healthcare.
All righty. Senator Sepulveda, it's on you to tell us your plan to support the 170,000 nearly Bronx residents that don't have health insurance.
Thank you again for the question. Look, county health rankings show yet again, that we are dead last amongst New York State in both health factors and health outcomes. We have the highest rates of asthma, especially in the South Bronx, where pollution inequity has disproportionately impacted Black and brown communities for decades. Now, the public, the city reported how the fallout from COVID-19 had profoundly debilitating effects on our borough. The root causes are centered about our increased vulnerability attributed to our already disaster health outcomes, coupled with the terrible economic insecurities that we have. We need healthcare institutions to be more responsive, both institutional and at the institutional and granular levels. It's shameful that the largest employer in New York State, it's non-governmental, is the healthcare industry. Yet we rank dead last on all major ethics. What we're doing, the status quo, is clearly not working. We need new ideas, we need fresh ideas. And when I become your borough president, I'm going to establish a committee to outline how we can integrate healthcare metrics with economic metrics, because both are intertwined and we have to mutually reinforce both so we have better outcomes. Now, I, as a candidate for borough president, have worked with the sponsor of the New York Health Act in the state Senate, and that's Senator Gustavo Rivero from the Bronx. I've worked closely with him. In fact, today we drafted a letter to leadership and the governor to make sure that for the rest of our session, our legislative session, the Healthcare Act, which is essentially healthcare for everyone, universal healthcare, will be part of the 3 top initiatives for the rest of session. Now, our country's healthcare metrics, they indicate that the Bronx, we're in desperate need of wrap-up healthcare services. And the only way we can do that is by having accessible healthcare to everyone. And we can do that with the New York Health Act. And I remind everyone here that in 2016, I am the only candidate here that openly endorsed Bernie Sanders. And the reason that I endorsed Bernie Sanders
10 seconds.
Because of his position on universal healthcare. I supported him. He was the only candidate. No one here at this forum supported Bernie Sanders' position on healthcare.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Sepulveda. I'm going to go back to you, Senator Sepulveda, so stay right with us because we are going the opposite direction. Councilman Cabrera gets a few extra seconds to hold on there. All righty. So this question now is being posed by Jada Christina Quinlan, and she is the Lehman Student Government Association president. And Jada asked this question. She says, it's evident that during this time, mental health is taking quite an impact. What can be done to ensure the resources for mental health are more widely known and available to those who actually need them?
Wow, that's truly a profound question. Thank you for the question. And it's profound for me in many ways. First of all, I was once a president of the Student Government Association in my college, so it brings back memories. But the issue of mental health has been something that I've dealt with personally on many levels. My mother suffered from mental health to the point when I was 11 years old, my mother committed suicide. We didn't have the resources or the services available back then. This is almost 45 years ago that we have now. When I became an elected official, I promised my family that I would use my pulpit and whatever it means I can to make sure that I impact how we get mental health services in our state. And I've done that in many ways, primarily through the budget. I've worked with healthcare organizations that cater to communities of color, because what people don't know is that the #1 killer amongst young ladies 11 to 19 in the Latino community, for example, is suicide. and the level of what they call suicide ideation is just enormous amongst our young kids. Among African-American young boys as young as 8 years old, it's one of the biggest killers. Suicide is one of the biggest killers. And so I have a personal, deep commitment to making sure that we get funding, as much funding that we can. We increased the state budget by 20% to $212 billion. And a lot of the money that we got was for mental health services. We know the pandemic made things worse. And we know that in this county, when other counties get a cold, we get pneumonia. And so we needed much more services. And as your next borough president, that is going to be one of my top priorities because it's something that I dealt on a personal level with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Sepulveda. Mr. Rivelo.
Yes, that's a great question from the young lady. I think I think in my 25 years in the NYPD, I've dealt with so many people that had this problem, and it's an epidemic here in New York. First, I'd like to find out, we invested almost $1 billion through Thrive New York, and I want to see where some of that money has gone, because we should be further along in dealing with mental health in New York City. And there's got to be an investigation, because I believe personally that this mayor has been irresponsible in handling the mental health crisis. And Senator Sepulveda is right. The pandemic has exacerbated this problem, and there's got to be some sort of focus as to what happened with the money, what institutions are actually working to help our folks. And now there's going to be a big budget. I know these folks right now, they're elected officials. They're going to be battling with in their respective governments as to how much money there's going to be invested in this issue. So I believe, not only the talk, but the money behind the issue should follow. So I think if we have the right amount of money coming in order to deal with this problem, it's a start. It's not a finish, but it's a start.
Thank you. Councilmember Gibson, I'll ask you, Jay, this question again about what can we do to improve and ensure that there are resources for mental health that are more widely known and then available to those who need them.
Thank you so much. And that's a great question. Education and outreach is super important during this time. The last year has reminded us of the painful reality that life is so precious and no one is guaranteed tomorrow. We have seen more mental health and an urgent need for therapeutic services, wraparound services, trauma-informed care, dealing with our students and family social emotional learning. We need to invest in more school nurses, school clinicians, psychiatrists, mental health counselors. As we build supportive housing, we need to make sure we have social services that are available for many of our families that are transitioning out of shelters into long-term housing. We need to have mentors for our young people who have been traumatized by remote learning and the plague of gun violence, which I remind you is something that we deal with every single day. These families are broken and will never be the same again. There is such a correlation between everything we're talking about, from education to housing to healthcare to mental health, therapeutic services, access to jobs. All of these things are fundamental and we deserve everything. And so having a robust and a comprehensive program well beyond, the mental health roadmap that has been talked about. And I too question the validity and where that money is, because we had first aid counselors and we started something, but I just feel like it didn't finish. A lot of people were certified in first aid mental health, but I don't know where it went. We have to have a robust program for family support, for parents that are adjusting to this remote learning as well as reality. And we have to work with our CBOs on the ground, our community-based organizations, our healthcare partners, our partners in schools, our educators. We have to make sure that everyone is a part of this conversation in order to really address the mental health needs of so many New Yorkers, and especially those right here in the Bronx.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Fernandez.
Thank you. This is such an important question, and it's an issue that I focused on since entering the assembly. I'm on the mental health committee, and that was a committee I specifically asked for because this issue is so important. And before I started in government, I was a volunteer counselor at a program called Life is Precious that directly helped young women, at-risk young women, Latina adolescents that were suicidal. And in the assembly, I introduced legislation to make sure that we mandate reporting for Latinas, Black male youth, veterans, rural New Yorkers, And about the last one, I think that was it. But it's very critical that we really address and find the reasons why people are going through this. And we know now in the last year that COVID-19 is a big reason. Children are traumatized, families have been struggling, and we need to make sure that we implement services in every place of every walk of life, in our schools. I've introduced legislation to make sure that we have psychologists in every school district, 2 at least. We need to make sure that we are having these conversations and implementing programs and resources in our workplace so people have that support within the workplace, and expanding it in schools even more with our community health systems in there. But addressing mental health needs is a must, and it's something that won't go away soon after the pandemic's over, because this will be an experience, this has been an experience that will carry an effect for a long time. And we need to make sure that our children, our adolescents, our seniors are getting the mental health that they need.
All right, thank you. Councilman Cabrera.
Thank you so much. I've been working in the mental health field now for 33 years. My doctorate is actually in counseling. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I also was a school counselor. I'm a certified school counselor. Look, at the end of the day, we're gonna need all of our schools in the Bronx. As a matter of fact, my vision is for the entire city to become community schools, so they can have all the wraparound services that they need: social worker, mental health services, all of the services that are often lacking in our public school. We have to get to the root of the problem early on before it gets complicated in the lives, especially when it comes to young people. The senator mentioned the loss of his mom, and my condolences to you, because that pain really never goes away. I lost my mom this year to COVID-19. We have so many people, so many of us here that lost friends, family. We're dealing with a level of complicated, not just grieving, but complicated grieving like we have never seen before. And so we need those wraparound services. And to answer the question that Sammy, and thank you, Sammy, for that question. I was the one who asked that question first. And where did that Thrive money went to? Because I sit in that committee. And I have to tell you that only $25 million really went to the direct services to Thrive. Everything else were going to the 800 and something million dollars were going to other agencies that were going to go there anyway. So it was, to be honest with you, a facade on how much money we were putting in. And so at the end of the day, it was only $25 million new money. We need a lot more of that to be able to deal with the real issues that we're dealing in New York City.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the next, the next question. I'll start off with Councilmember Gibson, and I will ask you the question. Your vision for strengthening parks and open space in the Bronx, what will you do on this front as Bronx Borough President?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you to whoever asked it. I love parks, our open spaces for children and families, recreation. Number one, we need to make sure that the Parks Department has a sufficient operating budget for staff, for PEP officers, for gardeners, for seasoned workers, making sure that they have sufficient staff. We need to make sure that our parks are open as much as we can. We need to look at DOE to look at some of their spaces to see if we can utilize them for opportunities as well. As a council member, we have a park equity initiative. I've been very, very proud to host movie nights, health and wellness, fitness, Zumba classes, silent disco. We have done a lot to just keep people moving because we've been through so much, and we realize that our parks are overutilized during this time because it's a place where people love to go. But I realize for a lot of our families, they don't feel that their children are safe. So we have to make sure our parks, playgrounds, green thumbs, our gardens are all sufficiently operated with programming, with volunteers, with staff, but we also have to make sure that they're safe spaces as well. So we've been asked to look at the enhanced lighting and other security measures to make sure our parks are safe, our green spaces are available. I'm proud to represent the High Bridge, the oldest standing walking bridge in New York City that we opened several years ago. And it's a beautiful bridge in High Bridge that connects to Northern Manhattan. It's about 1,400 steps to to get across, and we've done it. But it's a beautiful space that we have to utilize. Claremont Park, Mullally Park, McCombs Dam Park, Crotona Park, Pelham Bay Park, Van Cortlandt Park. They are our treasures, and we have to invest in them. We have to make sure that we're taking care of them as we take care of our own homes. So we have a plan that will focus on the support, the staffing, investing in infrastructure. We have several parks that we are building out, including Corporal Fisher, Grant Park, Bridge Park, are 3 brand new parks that we're getting in our district as a result of the Jerome Neighborhood Plan. We want to continue to increase that access. More park space as population grows. We have school-age children. We just want to enjoy our parks as much as we can and have all the support that we rightfully deserve.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask now Senator Sepulveda.
Darren, can you repeat the question just to make sure I have it right?
Sure. Your vision for strengthening parks and open space in the Bronx.
Listen, I am a staunch environmentalist and supporter of parks. I am an avid cyclist and a vegan. And so these are the kinds of things that are near and dear to my heart. A lot of what we have to do with our parks are actually driven by funding. And it's so my responsibility at the New York State level to make sure that all these great things that we want to do, opening parks, cleaning parks, providing security, that we have the level of funding to make sure it's a reality. Now, what we've done, we've worked together in the New York State Senate to provide a pretty robust budget to get some of these things done now. You know, we're getting a lot of money from the federal government, so we're able to earmark some monies to our parks, and that's what we're going to be doing. I work closely with the chair of parks in the New York State Senate, Senator Gustavo Rivelo, who's Senator Jose Serrano, who is another Bronx Assemblyman senator who really appreciates and understands the beauty of our parks and how we need more open space. We have so many things that we can do here to make sure that our communities have access to open space. We have to do more bike lanes that lead us to these parks and to these open spaces. We have to have green energy to make sure that we get to these parks and not ruin the environment on our way there. But parks are a vital necessity to our community. Without them, our children suffer, our community suffers. So I can guarantee you that a large part of the budget that I get as your borough president will be dedicated to improving our parks in this county. When I go out bike riding throughout the city of New York, and I go to other parks and I compare them to what we have here, it's like everything else. We don't get the same resources in wealthier neighborhoods. And that's unacceptable to me. And my bully pulpit will be to make sure that the funding that we get can provide a lot of the new parks, a lot of the new things that we want to do to make sure that my children and the children of this community are able to enjoy open spaces and appreciate nature the way I have in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sepulveda. I'll ask Assemblywoman Fernandez.
Thank you. This is a great question too, because I love our parks as well. I'm very fortunate to represent the district with Pelham Parkway and Mashalou Parkway and bordering Van Cortlandt Park and Pelham Bay Park. I love to take runs through the parks, and I think that we can expand park use by advertising the trails that we can create through parks. I find it a little disingenuous to talk about funding when our council and mayor have allowed funding to be cut to our parks department. We do need more workers. We do need more maintenance. We do need more funding. And the funding should not only go to renovating playgrounds to making sure that they're safe and up to date, but also to our park alliances. We have so many beautiful groups of active people, park lovers, that do a lot of the work in taking care of our parks, cleaning it up, planting new flowers, and they can use assistance too. We can expand the use of our parks by allowing community gardens within parks. Sometimes it's hard to find an empty space to create a community garden, but if our nearby parks can allow that, we should be able to do it. We need to continue to make sure that our nature, our natural areas are taken care of and understood. Having more educational programs to teach Bronxites about who is in our park, the wildlife, animals, but also how we as individuals can take care of our park. We need to have proper trash bins in the area to make sure that people are actually throwing away their trash and doing everything we can to just keep our parks clean, beautiful, and something that we can all enjoy.
Thank you much, Mr. Rivelo.
Yes, as a former Little League coach, I coached for 12 years in Van Ness, 13 years in Van Ness Little League, and seeing that back then in Waters Place, there used to be 12 Little League fields out there. Now that I think there's only 4 left. I see the impact that's having when we take parks away, and I love baseball, and if I had it my way, we would add a couple of parks in the Grand Concourse corridor that many of our kids are probably don't have access to, but that would be a challenge. But to answer your question is, I believe everybody here as Democrats, we are fully committed, and it's for our citizens to have access to our parks, which are, I believe we are the greenest borough in New York City. But three things that just need to happen. We need to fund our parks. We need to make sure that our citizens are safe. And we also we need to make sure that our parks are clean. And it comes with money. So I think I am definitely committed to making sure that we either have more parks, or at least we have the status quo, and we clean our parks, and they thrive.
I'm muted, I'm sorry. We'll go now to Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you so much. Let me just mention, I think that our Assemblywoman is a bit misinformed regarding a level of funding for our parks. Look at my district. In my district, I brought $47 million for parks alone. As a matter of fact, my council district is the only council matter district where all my parks are fully funded. And when I got into the council, we had some of our parks were literally closed down. I had one that was literally sinking. And so now they're all fully funded, some of them in projects, some of them in design, some of them are being developed. I was the only council member to score 100 in the legal conservation voters. I have the track record to show we had done the job. And I want to be the parks borough president. We have more park space than any other borough in the city of New York. So it's going to require a tremendous amount of funding taking place in our borough. What I like to see is the state to start cutting funding for the city. We do $500 million just in education that we're being cut. We're not having the equity coming into our borough. So we could have the level of funding that we could equally distribute with different agencies. So I'm very proud of my record. I'm very proud of what we're doing. And I sat in the Parks Committee for many, many years, and looking forward to, as the next borough president, to taking care of our parks like I've done in my district.
So I'm gonna give 30 seconds for Assemblywoman Fernandez to respond. Then I'll also allow 30 seconds for Councilmember Gibson.
I'm not mistaken, because when I've spoken to the commissioner, park managers, park workers, they've told me how the budget has been continually reduced. And these are budgets overall, not your individual projects within your council districts, but overall budget has been reduced. And these are budgets that the council members voted for.
Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to remind everyone, last year's state adopted budget cut the city of New York by $2 billion. And because we had a $9 billion budget deficit because of $7 billion loss in revenue due to the pandemic, and because the city charter mandates that we have to balance the budget, we had to make some very hard choices. And one of those choices was to cut the Parks Department by $84 million. Thankfully, this year's state budget did not cut the city of New York and the federal money that we are getting. We are going to make restorations back to the Parks Department. So we have the seasonal workers, the gardeners, the PEP officers, the park rangers, and the recycling bins that our parks rightfully deserve. We will get it done this year. And last year was no exception to a very challenging fiscal crisis that we faced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to turn now to affordable housing. And the question comes up, and I'll start off with you, Assemblymember Fernandez. The outgoing borough president has made workforce affordable housing a priority of his tenure, focusing on young professionals making between $40,000 and $80,000 a year to allow our borough's youth to remain in the Bronx. Would you continue this policy? And if so, how? You got to unmute.
My bad. Absolutely. It's vitally important that we provide housing to everyone in need, especially our young people. I introduced legislation that would expand the age requirement of youth and for youth to stay in public housing, affordable housing shelter system up to the age of 24. But we need to really fight for truly affordable housing. And I will do that as borough president, working with responsible developers that have that as their main priority, that commit to that priority. And we need to make sure that overall we're preserving our housing stock to stay affordable so nobody gets displaced with the new developments to come in here.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask now, Mr. Rivelo, same question.
Well, it's simple, for housing, for-profit, affordable housing has to end. What I like to see more of now is when we have these developers come in and they come in and make their big developments. I like our young people, our young professionals to start owning property, start owning these apartments as opposed to renting it, because it becomes we get into a slippery slope of now you're stuck there for the next 15, 20 years rather than owning property. And then when our young professionals make enough money, they end up buying homes somewhere else because they're too expensive here in New York City. So I commend what our current borough president is doing. He's done a tremendous job. But coming out of the pandemic now, I like to see more not-for-profit affordable housing, where we're going to start giving ownership to our own folks here in the Bronx, as opposed to renting.
Thank you, Councilman Cabrera. Your thoughts?
Thank you so much. Look, I want to keep CUNY graduates here in the Bronx. Often we have affordable housing for those with very low income, and then we have in the very end, and so in the other extreme, right? And so what we need, and when you start talking about somewhere in the middle, we have to make sure that we have affordable housing for those who are in the working class, for those who are making the $40,000 and the $50,000, $60,000 range. My district is one of the only 7 districts, according to the Furman Center NYU, that has not experienced gentrification. That didn't happen by chance. That happened through strategic work that I have been able to accomplish alongside with my colleagues to be able to have affordable housing. And this is what we need to do here in the Bronx, because otherwise we're going to get pushed out, as we have seen in Brooklyn, we have seen in Queens, and we want to make sure that we protect what we have built.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you, Darren. Affordable housing needs to be affordable to everyone, not just some people. We need to look at opportunities to build ownership opportunities like community land trusts. Shout out to all the CLTs across the city of New York that are doing great work, and those in the Bronx. Worker cooperatives build economic wealth and prosperity in our communities. We have to look at some of the tax incentive and HPD term sheet programs like Ella and Sarah and look at revamping them. We have to make sure we have responsible contracting language in future RFPs, so we hold developers accountable to certain labor standards. We have to look at anti-displacement and anti-harassment policies. We have to make sure developers have local job hiring opportunities. They work with our labor unions. We provide prevailing wage and union wage jobs, apprenticeship opportunities. We have to look at the 15% minimum set aside for formerly homeless families. We have to look at mixed use and mixed income housing, a combination of affordable and supportive housing, and housing for seniors and veterans and youth aging out of foster care and domestic violence survivors. So many marginalized communities that don't have an opportunity. We have to look at revamping the ULURP and the land use process so that it's more engaging with community residents. A lot of these things are very much achievable. And I think the city council, we've passed legislation that mandates minimum 15%. We have programs like MIH and ZQA. We have neighborhood rezonings. We have to look at racial impact studies. We have to make sure that we are building economic wealth and power, and we are owning property, because when you own property, you have a stake in the game and you have a seat at that table.
Thank you very much. All righty, we've got Senator Sepulveda.
Thank you. We're starting to feel a little lonely here now, so thank you. Let me, this is an example of how we have to think beyond the box, how we need different leadership. A lot of these responses are responses that we've heard time and again over the years. And still, although things have gotten better in the Bronx, they still haven't achieved what I think we can achieve. And that's because you need someone with the experience that I have to make sure that we're able to keep people in their homes. Now look, the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development, they reported that the Bronx has 7, let me say this again, 7 of the top 10 community boards in New York City that are facing the most threats to affordable housing. Here, 7 in the Bronx. According to that same data, that we have the highest rates of eviction, we have the most rent burdened tenants, we have the most tenants making less than the required area median income. And it's clear that while thousands and thousands of affordable housing units have either been constructed or preserved, for our borough, more needs to be done to ensure that our residents can pay for the rent there. And the problem is that the AMI calculation, something that has a calculation that was done in the 70s, just doesn't support the realities of today. So we have to support an AMI calculation that's been more in tune with the area, the neighborhood. So the AMI should be, I say, more like a 20 block radius, and see what the average median income in within that 20 block radius, so that we know what the real AMI will be. And we have to believe, I believe that if we're able to do this, then we can maintain some of our young professionals in this community. Now, we have a serious brain drain issue
10 seconds.
in the Bronx. So as your VP, I'd favor facilitating more institutional oversight of problematic developers who've gotten away with a lot of stuff, and landlords to begin housing threats. Now, I want to remind everyone that I was one of the senators that the Senate leader put together to write our current housing protection laws that have kept people in their units over the pandemic. And the leader of the Senate, Senator Stuart Cousin, had enough confidence in me, in my ability and my experience as a one-time housing lawyer to be able to write legislation that protected our tenants and kept them in their properties during these terrible times.
Thank you. All righty, moving along, we're going to talk about the topic of public education. We have another question coming to you. And while we're at it, we also want to thank our partners for being able to share with us and helping us to bring this forum to you. Bronx Community College, of course, host of this community, Lehman and CUNY, BronxNet, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, the Bronx Democratic Party, Citizens Union, Dominicanos USA, New York City League of Women Voters, New York City Votes, New York League of Conservative Voters, and the New York Public Interest Research Group, better known as NYPIRG. So thank you to all of our partners, as well as our sponsor organizations, for making that happen. All right, we're gonna turn our attention now to public and higher education. Student question comes from Gabriel Maria, who is from Bronx Community College. He is the SGA president. And the question is, with students being out of school for over a year, how do you intend to ensure that our youth are not behind and still have full access to education and continued advancement? We will turn it over to Senator Sepulveda. If you would come on right now and give us your answer.
Oh, absolutely. I'm extremely proud to have voted on a budget that restored $1.4 million in foundation aid to our New York State educational system. I am extremely proud to have voted and participated in a budget that increased TAP awards and for SUNY and CUNY students by $500 a semester, which is one of the largest increases we've seen in the last 25 years. I'm proud of myself being such a strong advocate for our educational system in the Bronx, and push year after year over the last 11 years, pushing to get more funding for our county. Now look, our county has to do things differently. Again, while the rest of the city improves by leaps and bounds, we still lag behind. And one area, of course, is our education, our public education system. We're notorious for having the same dropout rates in the city, with Blacks and Latinos being at the very bottom of demographics. And this is no secret. The Bronx Journal just wrote something about that. And then, given that CUNY colleges being some of the most diverse institutions of higher learning in this country, I support increased engagement with these students that are at risk at high schools, so that they can mentor our kids to make sure that they go on and go to college. We have to, provide a more holistic wraparound service to bolster not only our graduation rates, but to cultivate more engagement with our CUNY system and our SUNY system. Now, I support more increased funding for CUNY operations. I'm going to leverage my BP office to boost the profile of the institutions that we have here.
10
I'm going
seconds.
to create a student CUNY liaisons for the borough presidents. Someone from CUNY is going to be a liaison, a student, to come to our borough president office and instruct us on what some of the needs are. I believe that education is the greatest thing in our community. I'm an example of that. Came from a poor neighborhood, got a college degree, a law degree. And so the best program, the best jobs program in the world is getting someone the highest education that they can attain.
Thank you, Mr. Rivelo. Same question to you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Gabriel. I was actually a senator in student government back in 1993 in Bronx Community College. So thank you for the great work that you're doing. Education is my number one issue. Coming here from the Dominican Republic to the Bronx, I went to Walton High School and I graduated, and I saw the lack of funding, or what happens with the lack of funding. Although we increase monies going into education, every budget, and I know that people say, okay, you know, we actually increase money, What is the money doing? Because at the end of the day, is what exactly is the money doing to our students that's making our education system better? You know, we hear every year that we're going to improve our education system. Yes, I do believe funding has a lot to do with it. I personally am going to advocate for more funding and make sure that the money is spent wisely, whether it's in after-school programs that are going to help students learn a trade, which is one of the things that I want to propose, or if it's higher education, you know, I'm advocating for free city university schools. They should be absolutely totally free. So that's two of the things that I am going to advocate when I'm your next Bronx Borough President.
Thank you very much. All righty, we'll move along. I'll ask Councilmember Gibson.
Yes, thank you so much. So I also support a CUNY tuition-free institution. I support a new deal for CUNY. We've been able to save CUNY ASAP, which is at $84 million, which the mayor wanted to cut last year. I am proud to support CUNY childcare centers, our first-generation students, supporting our students and faculty at CUNY. We have the Peter F. Ballone Scholarship Program that's at $16 million. Proud to support the DREAM Act and really making sure our students have access and opportunity. In our public schools, we need more social workers, guidance counselors, school nurses. We need to address the digital divide that so many families have been facing with connectivity. I've been proud to invest over $30 million in Community School District 9, 8, and 12. I've been working closely with the CECs and the school leadership teams and our superintendents, our school-based health center providers. We've invested a lot of money around technology and training and capital infrastructure in our school buildings. We really need to make sure we have universal free breakfast and universal free lunch, because that should be a guarantee for our students who are coming to school hungry. We have a high population of students in temporary housing, not acceptable. We have to work with our students and give them the access that they rightfully need. We are proud in the City Council for the first time, our Summer Youth Employment Program this year is going to have a set aside for CUNY students so that we can give CUNY students summer youth and the components that they rightfully need. Very proud, 2 years ago, the City Council, under the leadership of our speaker, we instituted a $1 million pilot program for food pantry services for CUNY students who live in food deserts that needed that access during this time. Remediation programs to support our students. There's so much more we can do, and this is just the start. But we have to invest in education. It's the gateway to the future, the pathway to the middle class, and it gives our young people a chance to be a success story and not a statistic. Investing in them now. UPKs, pre-K options. We opened the first middle school in Highbridge. We have a brand new school coming to Edward L. Grant Highway. All the things we've done, we look forward to doing that as your next Bronx Borough President.
Thank you. Assemblymember Fernandez.
Thank you so much. Well, education, as we know, is the key to every student's success, and we need to make sure that our education system is fully funded and empowering every student that has a dream to fulfill whatever they want to do. I too have voted on a budget that gave SUNYs and CUNYs more money than before. I'm rallied virtually and physically with students here in the Bronx and in New York City to fight for a new deal for CUNY, to make CUNY free again, because education should not be something that is hard to achieve and hard to get. We need to make sure our schools overall are not closing. Not one school should be closing in the Bronx, because the reality is we need more schools. We need more schools because classrooms are too tight. And with spaced out classrooms, children get more attention, more direct services, thus leading to success in their later educational years. But we need to help, yes, gap that digital divide. Not only should we be providing tablets, laptops, those physical resources, but we need to get it. We've been fighting for funding. We have that now, but we can also create partnerships with private sector leaders that can help literally buy and bring those resources to the hands of our students. We need to expand Wi-Fi, again, working with private developers and sector leaders to bring satellites, nodes. If we can't do it on a city level, we will do it on a Bronx-wide level. And in the Bronx and in New York City, I would promote bringing Wi-Fi to our NYCHAs. Why should there not be Wi-Fi in our NYCHA? That can help so many, not only students, but parents and family members, young and old, to connect to the learning that they need and that they want. We need to make sure, and I will make sure, that after school programs are expanded. Every school should have an after school program, because these extra services, these extra opportunities and for learning can only excel a student. And once they get to that age, when they are ready to apply for college, we can have the opportunities to get a taste of college, early education programs, SUNY EOC, HOP. Those are things that we need to help fund and keep right now to help students stay on that pathway to a good education. But again, like Sammy said, different education, vocational school, trade schools. Not everybody's meant to be a rocket scientist. We can be anything that we want to be, and we should be able to succeed and live beautiful, thriving lives with what we choose.
Thank you.
Darren, I know Councilwoman Gibson and I haven't debated. I really want to thank her for mentioning the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act is one of my greatest legislative victories in my life, the DREAM Act and the Green Light Bill. But our CUNY students have many undocumented immigrants, and to be able to push that bill over the finish line is something that I will always remember and will impact the lives of, we believe, of millions and millions of people. And I certainly want to thank Councilwoman Gibson for acknowledging that and the work that she did when she was pushing for it in the Assembly. So thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Let me go to Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you so much. Look, as the longest serving council member in the Bronx, I brought over $107 million in my district. Myself and Councilmember Gibson, we were able to each be able to have a brand new middle school in our district as a result of the rezoning in Jerome Avenue. I brought over $12 million to our CUNY, especially colleges like Bronx Community College that has the highest need for capital improvement. And as I said in the Higher Education Committee, the number one question I asked every single year was about Bronx Community College, the need that they have, because they were neglected prior to the years that I was a council member. We do need to look at the programs, as Sammy was talking about, and this is something that I've been done. We have a gifted program training for our students to be able to get into our specialized schools. And now our students are going into those specialized schools. The READ program, 34% of many of my kids, they live in shelters. And they need that level of support. And as I brought the READ program, they're able to, those students that were 2 years behind, to be able to catch up. And indeed, we need free CUNY education. Look, it will cost us the first year $95 million. After that, $350 million a year. The level of return that we're going to get back for that seed of investment in the students, it is something that is going to pay way longer for many, many years, because the key to opening doors in life is the level of education that we're able to afford to our children.
Thank you very much. I want to continue along the topic that Gabriel has here, talking about public higher education, going a little bit deeper. I'll start with Councilmember Gibson. You get the first question. I'll go then to Assemblymember Fernandez, and then back to Councilmember Cabrera, then on to Sammy Rivelo, Mr. Sammy Rivelo, and then also to Senator Sepulveda. Let me ask this question here about your plans. And Gabriel wants to know, what plans do you have currently to go even further in supporting Bronx CUNY students?
That's a great question. So number one, I will make sure that we expand on the CUNY ASAP program, which has proven successful. I will focus on first generation programs for students that are the first to graduate in their families. I will make sure we expand on CUNY childcare, which has been an important part of our work. I will make sure that we strive and achieve a CUNY tuition-free institution. That is very, very important, because I think when you recognize the history of CUNY, when students of color started to enroll, that's when tuition was imposed, and it's unacceptable. We have to get to an environment where tuition-free is our goal. I will make sure we support students as well as supporting our faculty. And I will make sure that we have a lot of programs to help our students. I realize a lot of our students lack basic necessities like affordable housing. Many of them are struggling for basic necessities. They're working parents and they need support. So we do have to have those mentors and therapeutic services and wraparound services, just as we talk about for our elementary, middle, and high school students. I will make sure we have education programs for our students. We have mentors as well. I am a product of having a mentor in my life, and that is the reason why I am here today. I think we also have to look at supporting our LGBTQIA students who are in the CUNY system. We have to give them the support they need. I know remediation is something we don't often talk about, but we have to make sure that we have remediation programs. We have to talk about healthy food and access. And at the end of the day, we have to make sure we increase scholarship opportunities for young people. And what I would do as borough president is have more partnerships with the private sector, with the trades, with construction industries, so we can get students into the apprenticeship opportunities and pipelines into all of these jobs that we have with construction and all of the development that is coming about in the borough. We need to work with CUNY on guaranteed jobs, not just internships, but job placements after graduation.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gibson. Assemblywoman Fernandez.
Thank you. Repeat the question one more time.
Sure. What plans do you have to support Bronx CUNY students currently?
Well, for those that are getting ready to graduate, remembering when I was a student, that is something that you think about. You might worry. You want to make sure that you're heading into a job, that you have a career path or a plan for your path. And I think the Borough President's Office can be very helpful in opening that door to many students. I'm a big proponent of the internship experience in high school and in college, getting that foot in the door, that firsthand experience and knowledge of what the real working world is like. And the Borough President's Office can be that liaison. It can be that bridge. I intend to be that bridge. I invite graduating students that are about to graduate, to come to the office, work with our community partners in the areas that they favor, to help kickstart their career. As Councilmember Fernando said about expanding contracts for MWBEs, guiding them through that. So as soon as they graduate, they have a business ready to start if they have the idea for it. We need to create these opportunities and empower students with their ideas, with their original business plans, and bring it to reality so they can continue to serve the borough with their talents, with their skills, and with their dreams that can transcend to other people's dreams.
All righty. Thank you, Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you so much. Look, I believe I'm the only one here, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that worked in a public school. As a matter of fact, Sammy, I worked at Walton High School after you were there, and it was a great experience. But one of the things that we need to do better is to have an articulation between our high schools and our CUNYs and SUNYs. To be able to have a feeder program and to have the influence of the colleges working within early on with our high school, so a relationship is already established, so they could have that level of exposure with the colleges. It just raises the level of expectation and exposure for our children to feel challenged. CUNYs are in tremendous need right now. As a matter of fact, this year I'm going to be funding a food pantry at BCC. I want to see farmers markets at CUNY. I want to be able to see more funding for our CUNY child care program. We have a lot of single parents right now that sometimes they feel torn. I came from a single parent home. I know what my mom had to go through. And so we had to alleviate that level of challenge that they face every single day. We could do better, and we're going to do better. When I get there, I'm going to make sure that our CUNY get the level of support that they need, because sometimes they have to choose between two things that they're both needed. And so they need government to come through and to provide that level of funding that they needed to build the infrastructure that is so needed. And that's why I'm so glad that so far I've been able to provide those $12 million to the CUNYs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rivelo.
Yes, I think Gabriel Maria was the one that answered that question. Thank you so much for that question. That was great. I attended Bronx Community College in 1993, and the president of Bronx Community College at the time was Roscoe Brown, a Tuskegee Airman, one of my heroes, real life heroes. Anybody here that knows that man knew his stuff. And the same things as a student senator back then we were talking about. Most of the things that the folks that we're mentioning here today, those were the needs of students back in 1993. More funding. We need to make sure that, some folks have access to babysitting, you name it. And nothing has happened. So we need to change our discourse. We're doing something wrong because we're still talking about the same things all these years later. It's something that we need. One of the things that I personally am going to do, I'm going to have a CUNY task force, because I am a product of a CUNY education, and I am very proud of that. I actually bought my home here in Morris Park back in 2002, and that's what I want to see. I want to see Bronxites graduate from the Bronx, and do what I did. Keep their families, raise their kids here. So two things that I'm immediately going to do. I'm going to have a CUNY task force, and you graduate from CUNY, whether you're going to continue your studies, because, if you graduate from Bronx Community College specifically, or, help you with a job placement, and those are two things that I'll have in my office when I'm elected Bronx Borough President.
All righty. Senator Sepulveda.
Thank you for the question. Again, it's a very profound question. Some people may not know the rich legacy that CUNY has. Once upon a time, the top CEOs of multinational corporations in the United States were graduates of City University, more so than the Ivy Leagues, the Harvards, the Yales. My dream as the next borough president is to create the environment so that we can get back to a situation where our graduates of CUNY and SUNY are the top CEOs, the top educators, the top scientists that you can produce for any society. That's what CUNY was until we started defunding. So we have to continue to get more funding. Now, look, I am by far the most progressive candidate that's running for this position. I supported free college education as a supporter of Bernie Sanders in 2016 and a supporter of the free college education platform for the Democratic Party when Joe Biden, thank God, won his election. And so for me, it is critical that if we have to cut a national defense budget a couple of percentage points so that every student in this country gets a free education, then that's what we have to do. Now, look, obviously, I'm not a federal representative. I'm not the president. I'm not the military. But you have to start somewhere, and you have to start raising attention about that. We have to provide free education to all of our students, especially in poor and Black and brown communities, but not shoddy education. It happened in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Our students were the best students that society provided. And we can do that again. We have a great student body now, but let's give them the resources. Let's continue to establish something that we've lost over the years at CUNY, and that's the relationship between public and private partnerships. I take you again to my example of my experience working with Toshiba. They will build STEM hubs here, right? You're now creating a relationship between our kids in this county with a private partnership, a huge engineering company that can lead to other things. So we have to be able to make sure that we create an environment with the borough presidency where you're going to have this public-private partnership with our students on steroids. Councilman Cabrera, yeah, you were a public school student, public school employee, a teacher, I believe. I was an adjunct college professor for 9 years. And so I know a lot of what the needs are of our students, and I specifically taught in areas where the students aren't as wealthy. And so I know that the transformational change that we can have and push for is to provide free college education for everyone in this country.
Thank you very much. All righty, going to turn the topic to public safety. And Mr. Rivelo, you get the first question. Let's talk about public safety. What does public safety in the Bronx look like to you? And do you envision a plan that is more reliant on policing or community efforts, or do you have something else?
Okay, so obviously, you know, as a former NYPD lieutenant, former police officer that served here in the Bronx, I retired out of the 46th precinct. I was a special operations lieutenant there. I am one that I am for a very strong, robust partnership with the NYPD. Folks, there's no secret here. We have the best police department in the world, bar none. I was a part of that. You know, we have to know how to work with the police department, just like the police department has to work with the community. Without the community, we're not, the police, and I say we, because I still think I'm a police officer, the police department is nothing. You know, we need our partners in the community to help us fight crime, to make sure that things in the community are safe. So one of the things that I envision, you know, and I was part of implementing the neighborhood coordinating program in the NYPD, which was actually working until, you know, we decided to kind of kick that to the curb by changing some of the ways we do business here in New York City. And I think that has a profound impact in the violent crimes that we've seen happening all throughout the city. 1,900 shootings since last summer. 1,900, I think, is as a result of some of the laws that we passed in city council and in the state. So I'm looking to finding a happy medium within the legislature, within the community, and also using, like I said again, the best police department in the world.
Okay, let me move on to Assembly Member Fernandez.
Public safety is an issue that is important to many of us. And while we need the police, they have a role in our communities. We need to really confront head on the racism that is embedded in our policing practices and to hold law enforcement accountable when they do wrong, just like we do anybody else who does wrong. They need to be held accountable. I'm a big proponent and supporter of community intervention programs. In my time in the Assembly, I've helped to give funding, $20 million in total to gang prevention programs. I've given $20,000 to my own community organization, Standing Up to Violence, which is a community-based violence intervention program. And this year we declared gun violence a public health crisis and got an additional $10 million for community violence interventions programs. And the one thing to come out of this is that we just need to create better communication lines. We need to bridge the gaps of miscommunication and misunderstanding between our police and community. I will use my position as the borough president to go deep into the community that doesn't attend our community precinct meetings, doesn't come to our community boards, isn't a part of any community associations, and bring them to the table to speak directly to our commissioner, to our officers, and have that platform, that opportunity to air your grievances, your thoughts, your concerns, because we will only move forward in a positive manner if we understand each other. I will have those town halls frequently in every precinct in the borough when I am borough president. But furthermore, we need to make sure that we address the current and past issues of public safety. The Bronx has the highest cases of domestic violence issues, of domestic violence cases. I will make sure my office is an additional resource to those that need assistance, that are afraid, that need further help, and to protect them against their abusers.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you. No matter what part of the Bronx you live in, everyone expects to be safe when we are traveling. We expect our children to be safe in our parks. We have a fundamental expectation that public safety is #1 priority. We have to reimagine public safety and look at the work of the NYPD, support the work of our police officers, hold them accountable when they do wrong, fight for criminal justice reform, and address the systemic practices of racism that we have experienced as a country in America for 401+ years. We have to look at the work that we started in this city council with the New York City Crisis Management System that's over $60 million, 35 neighborhoods, 5 boroughs, where we look at gun violence from a holistic healthcare perspective, wraparound services, holistic treatment, violence interrupters, hospital responders, mediators, outreach workers, Guns Down, Life Up, Save Our Streets, Releasing the Grip, Standing Up to Violence, BRAG, so many organizations that are credible messengers that give young people a chance, that take the gun out of their hand and offer them a job, a program, mentor our young people so they don't feel like they have to engage in violence. We have been plagued by gun violence far too long. I can't tell you how many funerals that we've been to or had to help pay for because young people are killing each other. We're killing our future and it's unacceptable. It is painful to have these conversations. So we have to look at collaboration, continuity of services, compassion for all people, supporting the NYPD, anti-gun violence initiatives. We started the mayor's office to prevent gun violence. Never in the history has that office ever existed. So we have to support clergy, community, all stakeholders working together. No matter what title you have in front of your name, it is our collective responsibility to be a part of keeping all of our residents and families safe in the Bronx.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you so much. And before I answer the question, thank you, Sammy, for mentioning Dr. Roscoe Brown. As a matter of fact, I did the street renaming for him and also for the park that is right across the street in his name and right in front of BCC. And where I had the privilege to be an adjunct professor some years ago. And I thank Councilmember Gibson for mentioning the Cure Violence Program. Myself and Councilmember Jermani Williams, we both started that program some years ago. 7 years ago, we were the co-chair of the Gun Violence Task Force, and we were able to get it started. The only initiative during the recession that we were going through, but we came out bold about this issue that we needed to deal with because we were losing so many of our young people. And as we heard it said, look, just 2 weeks ago, I had to do the funeral. Many of you know I'm a pastor. I had to do the funeral of the young lady who got shot right here in her forehead. It broke my heart dealing with the young people. They're hurting out there. They need solutions. They need those credible messengers, people who speak their language, who understand what they're going through. I started the first and only mentoring program that in detention centers, the youth detention centers, so we could short circuit young people coming back. Most of the kids that I end up in detention center, they have been there before, and everyone that have received mentorship, not one of them have gone back. What we're lacking right now is more mentors to be able to go there. And last but not least, and something that I know my colleagues have mentioned here in other forums, we have to deal with the poverty problem. We got to get to the root of the problem to be able to provide opportunity, job and education opportunities for our young people so they could be productive and live in purpose. And so and the last thing, the summer youth employment that was mentioned before for our young people, we want to make sure that is on demand, not just 70,000, on demand for any young person who wants to work throughout the summer.
Thank you. Senator Sepulveda.
Thank you, Darren. So again, we have to do things differently. You know, the Bronx, whether you want to buy this or not, the Bronx Times has just showed a report where crime has decreased in the Bronx as much as 21% in January. Now, I know that one of our candidates here mentioned that it's legislation from the city council and the Senate or the state legislature has led to an increase in crime. But unfortunately, that shows a fundamental lack of knowledge about what these bills have done. Now, I was one of the 7 senators that was chosen again by our leader to write the criminal reform package bills that were passed last year. Bail reform, speedy trial, 2 very important ones. Now, despite the commissioner's fear-mongering and other individuals that are against it, the reality is that bail reform has worked because many of our young Black and brown students or children, family members, who, because they couldn't pay a $300 bail, languished in prison, whereas a white person with wealth got to go home. Bail reform has worked because people have gone back to school, they have gone back to work, and it's had an incredible impact on Black and brown communities, and it's changed policing. Now, we know that policing is important. I'm an avid supporter of our precinct councils. In fact, I believe that I have not missed a precinct council meeting in over 7 years. I'm always at our council meetings to talk to people about some of the concerns. And a lot of it is the police interaction. They act with impunity because of what's happened in our society. But because of the current high profile cases, the George Floyd case, now we've awakened the spirit. The Black Lives Matter, she gets a lot of credit for that, to awaken the spirit about what policing in our country is doing. And so now, because of the work of the Black Lives Matters movement people, myself and my colleagues in the New York State Senate, that saw to it that we had to change the fundamental reactions and behaviors and interactions between police and Black and brown communities and the Black and brown community. If you want to have those good relationships, obviously you have to work on that. And what we did was we created an environment where police are held accountable. We were the ones that we rescinded 50A. We passed all these reform bills to make sure that the kind of justice that you get is not dependent on the zip code that you live in or the bank account that your parents have, and certainly not on the color of your skin. And so that is one of the fundamental principles that we have to work on, and that is to make sure that police understand that they are public servants that serve our community, and they respond to our community. As taxpayers, we pay their salary and not tyrants. And what we've seen in the past is this kind of mentality that hurt Black and brown communities, and that's changing. And it's not changing only because of the work of our progressive leaders, but also because I believe that police officers, the good police officers, the good commanding officers are realizing that you cannot continue to do policing the same way you did it before. You have to do it with respect. You have to have rules and regulations, and you have to have police that misbehave, that are corrupt, that abuse our community. You have to hold them accountable. And I believe that is what we're doing. And that's what I've worked on for many, many years, for at least 10 years. These are things that require experience. You know, with COVID and the crises that we have, you know, we can't elect someone who just got elected a couple of years ago.
Time.
We can't elect someone without governmental experience to control, to work in our county and get things done. You have to have legislative experience. You have to work with other members. And if you look at my legislative record, the most prolific legislator on this in this debate, you'll see that I've been able to bring people together and reach solutions, create solutions, pass legislation, pass policies that certainly impact our.
Thank you, Senator Sepulveda. All righty. Well,
Can I respond to something? Because I believe he mentioned me, and the senator is very misinformed about what he's done to our community. Can I respond to that?
You have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Actually,
Yeah.
you do. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So the senator obviously needs to go out a little more into his community. He's my state senator, and obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, you go out. A lady goes out and commits, a young man goes out, commits a robbery, a gunpoint robbery in Fordham Road. And before the police department finishes the paperwork, he's out committing another robbery. That's just the reality. You know, I don't think I heard anything about a plan for public safety other than bashing the police officers, which is shameful because the majority of the police officers are now minority, especially here in the Bronx. The Bronx has had an African-American district attorney since 1988. I personally have been a police officer the majority of the time in the Bronx. I retired in 2019, and I tell you, the police officers, they do an honorable, a decent job here in the Bronx, and their job is to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I respond now quickly?
You get 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you so much. First of all, I think Mr. Rivelo needs to come over to my community here. I can tell you that most of the candidates here that come to my community, they're told that I'm a very active person in our community. You also, I think, as a police officer, I respect the commitment that you did to our community, but you really don't understand the way that essentially the reforms that we put into place have worked. You know, there's something called anecdotal evidence. Now, you say someone committed a violent robbery and they're out. That explains to me that you really don't understand the way bail reform works, because there's certain violent crimes that you are bail eligible.
Time.
The reality is that you have to understand the legislation and look at the data so that you'll be better informed about the impact of bail reform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Well, we are now getting ready to move into another topic. It's supposed to be fun, y'all. These are called fun topic questions. So it won't be that deep. It's just getting your perspective, letting us know some fun topic questions. So question number one, we'll go in alphabetical order this time, right? And then this is called the lightning round. You don't get a whole lot of time to go back and give us a whole lot of answer. You just one or the other. That's all. All right. Everybody on the same page? Let's play. All righty. Councilmember Cabrera, we're going to start with you, and everybody's going to get to answer this question. Here's the question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yankees or Mets?
That's an easy one. Yankees, BX all the way. Come on.
Okay. Assemblymember Fernandez.
Bronx Bombers, baby.
All righty.
New York Yankees, proud to represent the Yankees, Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
BX.
Yankee fans, 1971.
Well, I don't know how anybody's going to be borough president and you don't say Yankees, but I'm just going to leave that right there. All right, let's keep going. All right, I'll do another one. Let's do another one. Knicks or Nets?
Knicks. And they're doing so good this year. Come on, the comeback.
All right. Assemblymember Fernandez?
Knicks, of course.
Councilmember Gibson?
Yes, the Knicks too. I'm praying.
Okay.
I diehard Knick fan, man, since the Ewing years.
All right.
Thank God for Tom Thibodeau.
Oh, so you're a Knick fan too?
Oh, absolutely.
We have nobody for the
Darn,
Nets.
that's
All right. Now with Katie and James Harden. Okay.
No,
All right.
no. We're going to beat them this year.
Okay. Let's keep going. All right. Let's talk, Councilmember Cabrera. Where do you get your best pizza slice from?
Listen, we have so many good ones, but I have to say, being a vegan also, whenever we have a vegan pizza, vegan cauliflower pizza slide, that's what I'm talking about.
Vegan cauliflower pizza slice. Okay. Assemblywoman Fernandez.
Emilio's on Morris Park, and they got vegan pizzas too. All good.
All right. There you go. Councilmember Gibson.
I go to Giovanni's on 149th in the concourse.
All right.
Morris Park Pizza, Union Port in Morris Park, right around the corner from my house. Best pizza in the world.
Represent. All righty.
Man, as a staunch vegan, it's hard for me to get real vegan pizza. So I've learned to make it myself out of necessity. And I think over the years, I've gotten pretty good at it. So maybe I may open up after politics a pizzeria for myself.
All right. We're getting breaking news here. All righty. Let's talk best rapper, Biggie or Tupac? Come on.
Look, that's not fair. They're from Brooklyn, so I got to go with Big Pun. I just did Big Pun Plaza in Fordham and Grand Concourse, so I'm breaking out here. I'm being rebellious.
Okay. All right.
Aaron, you just brought it with that question, man.
All right. Assembly Member Fernandez.
Well, sticking with the East Coast to your question, I'll say Biggie, and in memory, DMX.
It is. Councilmember Gibson.
I agree. The Bronx is the original birthplace of hip hop, 1520 Sedgwick Ave. But answering your question, the notorious B.I.G., aka Frank White.
All right. Mr. Rivelo.
Well, I was there when Vanessa Gibson led the renaming of Hip Hop Boulevard, but I have to say KRS-One, sorry, I don't know if anybody here remembers them, but out of the two that you gave me.
Stick to the question, I'll be the journalist.
Biggie.
Okay. Yes.
Well, I'm a big fan of a guy called Kid Cudi. I think he's the best rapper right now. However, between the two, I'm going to be different. I certainly listen much more to Tupac than I did Biggie.
All right. There it is. All right. Well, final question. It's a fun topic question. Here's the question. Has Mayor Bill de Blasio made crime worse?
That's a loaded question. I'm going to say this.
Wow.
Poverty has made crime worse.
Okay. Assemblymember Fernandez.
He could have done a better job at addressing the videos that I know he saw from this past summer and before.
Okay. Councilmember Gibson.
I agree. I don't think we can blame one person. I think we all have a role to play, certainly as legislators and advocates and others. And so I would say no, that we always have room to grow and ways to improve, but no.
All righty.
Well, I believe that he has been the worst mayor in my lifetime. So yes, I think he has definitely been the reason why crime has gone up. He has not shown leadership, and you got to be a leader. If you're the mayor, it lands on your lap.
Senator.
Well, you know, I'm an avid reader and absorber of data, and the data doesn't bear out what Mr. Rivelo just indicated. Crime has been going down in this country and in the state for the last 25 to 30 years. It started with massive investments in policing, what Bill Clinton gave Giuliani a gift, and we were able to hire more policemen. But if you look, whenever there is a crisis in a country, for example, when we had the crisis in St. Louis where crime spiked, you had crime spiking here because of the pandemic, people losing their jobs. When you have that, you have spikes in crime. But if we're going to be honest, we'll see that New York City is still one of the safest cities in the world. And if you look at the trajectory of crime, you'll see that it's continued to drop after this spike related to the pandemic. So we shouldn't have knee-jerk reactions. We should look at the data, and the data doesn't bear out what Mr. Rivelo just indicated.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Can I say something about that?
You know, this is supposed to be fun topics.
Yeah, I know. Well, he called me out. You know what?
We'll give you 30 seconds.
I'm gonna let it slide, Senator Sepulveda, even though you called me out. But you're misinforming everybody with that. I just want to say that.
I respectfully disagree with you, Mr. Rivelo.
Y'all come on over to Channel 67.
But I do thank you for your service as a police officer.
Yes.
You come on over to Channel 67. We'll fix this up real quick, all right? All right, listen. We have a few seconds left, and we want to let you have the opportunity to have some closing remarks from each and every one of you. I want to thank you all for coming and being with us and sharing your vision for the Bronx. Some matters very serious. We laughed a lot, but we also dealt with some very serious matters. Thank you all for taking the time and really being here with us. I want you to have a few seconds to have closing remarks, and don't let me have to count you down. So just go ahead. I'll start off in alphabetical order. We'll go reverse alphabetical order. We'll go with Senator Sepulveda. You go first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the students. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to the presidents of the respective schools. Great people that I've worked with. Thank you really for the wonderful job you're doing educating our kids here in the Bronx. And I hope that I can get you millions and millions of dollars in the state budget in the future. Now, look, we all know the phrase, we're all familiar with hashtag not 62. It's painfully evident that we need fresh ideas as catalysts for proactive initiatives. We can't continue to do the same thing. I believe I best represent the transformative ideas that will pull us from the bottom. When you think of what a borough president is, what it embodies, when you advocate, when you're an advocate, you're an ambassador, someone that can galvanize and be a spokesman for its people and its institutions. Our ranking in no way reflects who we are and our collective potential. And I'm grateful if I'm granted the honor of being the next borough president. I will do all that I can to blaze and ascend a new path with new changes and doing things differently. And I've said time and again, and I've asked my colleagues to join me in this pledge. If by the time my first term is over, we're no longer last in healthcare metrics and job metrics, I will not run for re-election.
10 seconds.
All my colleagues that are running to make the same pledge. Thank you.
Mr. Rivelo, final comment.
All right, I want to thank all the school presidents. I want to thank all the candidates for a very robust forum. I always enjoy debating ideas. I am the non-politician in the group. Well, the non-elected official in the group. But to be your advocate for the Bronx, you don't need to be elected. You don't need to be elected and have spent 15 years in government in order for us to be last in every major category. All you need to do is you need to care about the people that live in the Bronx, and that's me. So I'm hoping that you give me a shot, give me a consideration in order for me to be the next Bronx Borough President. Un saludo a toda mi gente latina por unirse a este foro. Es un foro que es necesario para toda nuestra gente y como le digo, yo estoy corriendo para ser el próximo presidente del condado del Bronx y espero que todos me den una oportunidad. Muchas gracias a todos.
All of that in a few seconds. All right, good job there. Good job. All righty, let me go to Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you, everyone, all the sponsors for hosting us tonight. I always have fun talking about this work and all the great things we want to see in the borough. I truly believe that the Bronx is ready for new leadership. We need a champion for the people, someone who's unafraid to make tough decisions, someone who's not new to this work, but is true to this work, someone with a demonstrated track record of accomplishments, of investments, of being true to the people, of focusing on COVID-19 and the recovery and creating jobs that make a difference and an impact on our neighborhoods and families, dealing with food insecurity and affordable housing and access to healthcare and quality public education and safe streets and economic development and supporting our small businesses and giving young people that access and opportunity they rightfully deserve. Our campaign Forward Together Bronx is exactly that, moving forward together, because united we stand and divided we fall. We must stand for something or we will fall for anything. COVID-19 has been a real setback for us in the Bronx, the highest death rate, highest rates of so much health disparities, but that opportunity, that comeback we are ready for. And that setback is really preparing us for the comeback that the Bronx needs. And I'm very proud to be endorsed by DC 37 and UFT and CSA and 32BJ who stand with us. And we are the candidate that has the passion to serve, the plan to get this work done, and the purpose to serve all the residents of the great borough of the Boogie Down Bronx. Join us, and we look forward to working with each and every one of you. God bless you all.
Assemblywoman Fernandez. Thank you, Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you so much. This really was an enjoyable forum, and I thank every sponsor, host, you, Darren, for this great forum and the discussion that we had. But many of my opponents like to tout their history of leadership and their accomplishments, but we see where we are right now that the status quo isn't working. We do need new leadership. We do need bold leadership, and I'm the candidate to do that. You can see it on my website, fernandez2021.com, clearly listed of the plans that I have that will take this borough forward. We are in a pivotal time in New York City, in this borough, that we're getting a whole new slate of council members, new mayor. We need a new BP that is ready to work with everybody, which I have done. I've worked with my assembly members, my council members, and everybody in government addressing the issues that matter to us most. I am that bridge builder. I am the candidate with experience. I didn't get to say it, but I used to be the Bronx representative for the governor's office. I'm the only candidate that has served borough-wide. I'm the candidate with the energy to bring these new ideas forward. And I'm the candidate with integrity, because I've never had to apologize for anything that I said that hurt people in the community. I've never used my position as privilege to get away with something. And I've never been arrested during my candidacy or time serving as an elected official. So the time is now to elect somebody new, to elect maybe the new woman, the first Latina to be your borough president. And that candidate is me. And I welcome everyone to follow, because we have a future that we're looking forward to, and we need to get there together. So hashtag Fernandez for the future. Follow me, Instagram at Fernandez4NY.
All righty. Thank you, Assemblywoman Fernandez. Councilmember Cabrera.
Darren, thank you so much. You always do such a great job. You're amazing. And I want to thank all the sponsors. Look, I was born in the Bronx. Been working in the Bronx for 33 years as a college professor, school counselor, drug abuse counselor, case counselor. I have worked as a pastor and now the longest serving council member, the majority whip leader, the chair of the Gun Violence Task Force. I was the co-chair of the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus. Experience does matter. Track record does matter. The reason I ran, to be honest with you, I was not into politics when I ran in 2009, but my neighborhood was hurting. The unemployment rate was 23.5, the worst in the city of New York. Crime was out of control. Sammy knows, he was around here. He was policing around this area, and our schools were falling apart. 11 years later, so last year, we went from 23.5 to 5.7 unemployment. Crime went down 66%. Have a couple of high school, one of them a 99% graduation rate. Brought unprecedented amount of funding in our district. The same issues we were dealing with before the pandemic is the same issues now that we're dealing because of the pandemic. what we dealt with 11 years ago, and we got it to where we needed to be. It's the same issue now we're dealing with Borough. I want to bring the leadership that is needed. Everything rises and falls based on leadership. And with your vote, June 22nd, I'll be the next Borough president, ready to move the Bronx forward together.
Thank you so much. And once again, want to thank all of our candidates for sharing with us and really giving an opportunity for us to hear the vision of that you have for the borough of the Bronx. Thank you for your spirited debate, your answers to our questions. And certainly we wish each of you the best as you head towards June. Before I turn this part over and end out, I want to once again thank our partners, Bronx Community College, Hostos Community College, Lehman College, and CUNY. I want to also thank BronxEd, Bronx Chamber of Commerce, Bronx County Democratic Party, Citizens Union, Dominicanos USA, New York City League of Women Voters, New York City Votes, New York League of Conservative Voters, and the New York Public Interest Research Group. Thanking all of our sponsors and partner organizations.
Before we leave, we do have a message from the CUNY Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez.
Oh yeah, I was going to that, but you got it.
I'm sorry, I apologize. But foremost, I want to thank you for the great work you've done here today. And again, being friend of all of the CUNY colleges in the Bronx, and really appreciate your effort and your help here. And in closing, thank you all for your participation. Thank you for the candidates. Thank you for the CUNY schools that participated. And now a message from our Chancellor of CUNY.
Greetings, bienvenidos. Good evening and thanks to CUNY's Bronx colleges, Lehman College, Bronx Community College, and Hostos Community College, and our partnering sponsors for producing tonight's very informative conversation. Thanks to our moderator and to the candidates running for office of Bronx Borough President. I admire your passion, your dedication, and your desire to make a difference. Thank you also for your commitment to CUNY and to higher education. We'll be counting on you in the years ahead. We all know how important it is to promote a sense of ownership and engagement across our community and to convey to our neighbors the power behind voting local. At a time in our lives that has been marked by unparalleled change, we can see every day that this is as crucial as ever. Forums like this one can help influence the trajectory of our recovery and growth in the Bronx and in all of New York City for years to come. So I thank you for leading the way. I urge everyone to make their voice heard by exercising their right to vote on June 22nd. I'll see you at the polls.
And that concludes our program for today. Thank you again for all the candidates. Thank you for Darren. Thank you for the CUNY participation from our sister and brother schools. And thank you all for being a part of this really important forum. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Great job, Darren. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Darren, great job.
Everyone.
Thank you.
CUNY
Thank you all.
Good job, Darren. Take care,
God
brother.
bless.
Have a
Take
good night.
care.
Happy Earth Week.